Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gonzo Film Reviews podcast. Today we'll be reviewing Amadeus and Deathloop, and we'll also be giving you an exciting preview of the new PlayStation Plus tiers that have been released. And today I'm joined by my co-host, Cloud.
How's it going today, Rango?
You know what? I'm living.
Well, I mean that's a better answer than what it would be if you weren't.
Exactly. It's a way to be. It's a way of being.
It is certainly a way of being.
Completely.
Oh man, so we got some pretty interesting things to cover. I know we made a couple of tolls on Twitter this time to see how that would turn out. I know we both had a few ideas of what we already kind of wanted to cover, but this way I feel like a little bit of an attempt to kind of get in touch with anybody who might be interested and, see what the people also want us to talk about. If they want to hear two random guys ramble on and state their opinions.
We just took a little exercise in democracy.
Yeah, that's all.
And so, the people have spoken. That's what I'm going to say. So the people have spoken. So I'm going to review Amadeus. Thank God you guys didn't choose Morbius. I love you. You guys are all amazing. On Twitter right now, @ReviewsGonzo. That's my account. Go hit it up if you want to vote on future topics. And if you also want to stay tuned for exciting giveaways. I'm going to be doing something really fun in the next few days leading up to the release of this episode to tease it. So follow the Twitter account if you guys want to stay up to date on all that and catch any exciting giveaway opportunities that I'm going to start up soon.
All right. Well, I mean, even I'm excited to hear about this one. So I'm already
secret,
following, of course.
Top secret, brand new operation.
All right. Well, everybody likes secrets.
Well, except a few people.
Well, yeah. There's always going to be those. Well, I don't think anybody likes secrets being kept from them. But I think we all like a friendly little secret.
The Amadeus review.
Right.
Now, this is a movie I've seen probably 5 or 6 times. And the only true proper way to watch this film is the director's cut. There's a shorter version. They cut it down for theaters. And it won several Oscars, obviously, but the thing that really makes this great, and the only version I've seen, is the director's cut, the 3-hour version. It's all laid out on the table, and they get to take full advantage of everything they wanted to use.
Huh. Well, so what's the runtime difference then in like the director's cut to the theatrical?
I believe it's around half an hour.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean that's a lot of content. A lot can happen in 2 minutes, let alone a whole 30.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot when you're going minute by minute, but you have to remember film can pack so much into 30 seconds. You could be in so many different locations in 30 seconds of film.
Oh, absolutely.
So there was a lot that I'm glad was in it. Although if there's one certain scene that would probably be a little too mature for anyone that is not allowed to watch that.
A fair warning to the audience.
Yes, a pretty good warning. If you don't want your kid to see boobies, go for the theatrical.
Let's see.
Brief boobies, I should say.
Yeah, well, at least it's brief, right? Could be worse.
Yeah, relatively.
Relatively, I suppose. So what do you got going on for this review? I know you've had a little bit of time since we put out the polls. I'm excited to see what your take on it is.
Yeah, I've had a long time actually to arrange thoughts on this. I'm going to share them, and the way I've always seen this film is very. I can't really explain it, the reason why it has such a big emotional impact, but I would just say it's just spectacular writing. It's very translational, if that word even makes sense to people. It You can really feel the emotion of the protagonist in the beginning of the film, and he carries that through the entire thing. You you become latched onto that story. It's like if you made a friend. And you sat down, you made friends with this guy because he almost addresses you directly because he is speaking to a priest in the beginning, and you kind of
Right.
feel like that priest. So
Huh.
you want to help him, you want to learn from him, you want to offer him something, but he ends up being the one offering you things, and he's the one that's informing you, and he's the one changing you and enlightening you, and then if it really does feel like you made a friend, and then you're more interested in the story that a friend tells than a stranger, I think. And so that's really what this is. This is a friend kind of telling you a deep and profound and hilarious and gossipy story
Huh.
for a few hours, and it's shot and written beautifully, and it has obviously the most beautiful music you could put to a film, Mozart's. It takes full advantage of his discography in a way. So they were able to incorporate the music without it feeling ham-fisted or forced in, like, oh, this is music you grew up on learning in school, like, oh, it's this theme. No, it's really organic. So I'm going to launch into my thoughts, and then I will open it up for questions afterwards,
Yeah.
critiques,
Go
comments.
for it, man. Go for
Yeah, if unhinged emotion, so whatever you want to share, you could do so.
it. Well, there's a lot that's unhinged. I can tell you that.
Yeah, there's too much of that these days, so we need to be very hinged in response.
Well, most of the
Yeah,
time anyway.
as much as possible. So here we go. Amadeus is one of the greatest works of cinema ever created. Based on the stage play of the same name, the film creates a profound display of narrative events that have been proven false historically, yet compellingly revolve around the life of the one and only Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, but not through the eyes of the man himself, and not from the point of view of the people closest to him. Rather, the film shares a harrowing gossip of jealousy, rage against the creator, lust, desire for glory, and competitive musical composition from the mouth and damaged, guilt-ridden mind of his opponent Antonio Salieri. The director Milos Forman and the entire musical arrangement and performance crew deserve the utmost praise for their pitch-perfect masterpiece of musical sounds in the film and on the soundtrack itself. Each note is perfect. Each arrangement of Mozart's music was just sublime. Every flourish of his masterpieces slides perfectly into each scene of use in the film, and never before has there been a film, and likely never will be, one that manages to so emotionally weave images and music that is real music, like music from history, in such a pleasant, satisfying, and thematically appropriate way, while maintaining steady progression of the plot and doing all of this organically. The film was never meant to be taken literally, nor be the arbiter of truth in the historical fact of the life of him and Mozart and Salieri, but this work exists to celebrate every single note of the one in a million years genius and talent gifted to Mozart. An eternal library is some of the greatest music that will ever be put to human instruments. Foreman never does anything too fancy or crazed with the camera. He lets the actors, the music, Oscar winning makeup, and costume design and set designers work the magic of the era, even if it is slightly more fictionalized. It's nevertheless just amazing. And F. Murray Abraham rightly won his Oscar for Best Actor due to his haunting portrayal of the older Salieri, coupled with an earnest, obsessive, hungry, calculating, curious, funny, and vengeful portrayal of younger Salieri. Anytime an actor is able to do both in one film, usually gives them a big award season. However, the award was hotly contested by fellow actor Tom Holt for, I probably butchered that name, but I'll look it up later, for his wildly funny and expectation-mangling performance of the mad genius, the story needed to foil Salieri's mediocrity. The ultimate achievement of Amadeus will be its bold risks and the creation of the director's cut of the film. Without this version, the film never would have shown the world the full vision and the genius of the script that was written. And I need to remind everyone it was based on a play that I encourage you to check out. Both versions are incredible. Displace one line and there would be diminishment. Displace one scene and the entire structure would fall. And those are my thoughts on the film after having seen it a few times.
Wow. Well, I mean, you really kind of answered like everything I had prepared to ask you about. I'm actually kind of amazed. Like, wow, okay.
What did you prepare to ask me? Because I had no idea you even had questions floating for this.
I was trying. I had a couple. I had a few. Well, first I was going to ask, like, how realistic you might have felt that the costume design was for it. Like, if it actually seemed and felt like it might have been accurate to the time it is placed in. You did cover that.
I could answer that a little bit more in depth, though. I think that because it focuses on high society so much, they're very realistic because they're ornate, they're very fancy, there's a lot of powdered wigs and everything, and there's a lot of symbols of status and class, and there's a lot of royalty in the film. And there's also, there are different countries involved, so it accurately showed, what different people wore in different areas. So the royalty of one country, would dress differently than that of the other. So I think that was done well. I think that it was as realistic as I could imagine it. I'm not 100% sure. I wasn't there on Mozart's day.
Well, I don't think this podcast would be very, very possible if you were. I don't think we'd be around.
Spoiler alert! I'm a wizard. I'm actually a few hundred years old, but.
Oh man! Wow. Okay. The next one was definitely about a lot of movies, such as this, where they're focused on a certain artist, their story, how they came, their life and their work. They often don't do it justice with implementing their music in the soundtrack. Do you feel like the music was, appropriately placed scene by scene?
It was, and I'll compare it to Rocket Man, because with Rocket Man, they took Elton John's music out of order, out of chronological order. Yeah, they wanted to showcase his rise to power, Elton's, without having to use the songs that he actually became famous for, in a way. So the Crocodile Rock was one of the big first pieces, and that's not historically accurate. But with this one, the way they used Mozart's music, sometimes it was background. So there was never, it never seemed that there was any original composition in this entire movie. So anytime they used his more mellow, calm, slower pieces, usually that's in the middle of a lot of classical pieces. So you would have the beginning, you would have the very soft middle, and then you'd have like a ferocious ending, like 1812 Overture, for example. But with this one, if there was ever background music needed for scenes with a lot of dialogue, it was the more mellow. And then for the big moments, like his father returning, the the huge boom of the Don Giovanni overture plays and just
Huh.
adds so much more depth and emotion to what you're seeing. And it parallels what he ends up writing for his operas and for his public performances. His life is really informing his work, and you really feel the connection because you might be familiar with most of his music, but it's done in such a beautiful way that you feel like um it's almost like your soundtrack was
Huh.
made by you. It's in a very satisfying way. Like, yes, that's where I would put this song. That's where I would put, and then the bum ba bum da 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 da. Like everybody knows that one. It's
Of
so
course.
overplayed. So the way they use that in the film, Salieri was playing his songs, and the priest didn't recognize him. He was like, I'm sorry, I don't know those tunes. And then he played and then he played that tune, and then
Huh.
the priest started humming it, and then Salieri was able to stop playing, and the priest finished it for him with I know that one. That's charming. So it was used perfectly.
So, would you say that the use of the soundtrack had a big impact on your like personal feelings in the story? Like you said, it's very personal. Like a friend is telling you a story, and in those types of situations, oftentimes, when a friend is telling us about something, we almost kind of experience it with them. Like especially if they use a lot of detail. Um, you kind of put yourself in their shoes and try to feel what they're feeling. Does the use of the soundtrack make that any easier to do when you're watching? Is it because I know the power of music can really bring out another sense in you, it almost feels like. And when used correctly, there's like no limit to what it can make you feel.
That's really the question, isn't it? And I think the best way to explain this would probably be through just quoting Salieri, because what he said in one of the scenes emphasizes the entire answer to your question, but it also won him his Oscar.
Huh.
He had his Oscar scene, and the way he describes a piece of lesser known music from Mozart, there is a song called Serenade for Winds, third movement,
Uh-huh.
and it's not very well known. And when he read it on the page, when Salieri was reading it, he said, on the page it looked nothing. At the beginning simple, almost comic, just a pulse,
Huh.
like a rusty squeeze box. And then suddenly, high above it, an oboe, a single note hanging there, unwavering, until a clarinet took it over and sweetened it to a phrase of such delight. And then he goes on and he finishes later with something along the lines of, I was hearing the voice of God, and
Huh.
God chose this man to make music. It's it's that beautiful.
Right.
It's almost like if you sat down and you made friends with a music critic, and he used his expertise to teach you things you didn't know about it before. And he gave me such an appreciation for that piece. And then I listened to it on YouTube. Almost all the comments say the same thing. They say, you know what? Without his description, like the beautiful scene where he's just adoring it and having a huge emotional connection to this piece as he reads it on the page, and he's not even hearing it, he's reading it on the page. And the
Huh.
way he describes this piece, that's not even one of his Mozart's most famous, is just incredibly profound. And it gives me that mindset in other scenes. So I'll listen to different pieces in in the movie, and I'll have a different kind of reaction to it. I will see it through the lens of that kind of thinking, and I'll have such a deeper appreciation for it. So it was obvious this movie was obviously written, and the play was written by someone who just adored this music, and that's perfect because that's all you need. You didn't sound The point isn't historical accuracy, it's the beauty of the music and why it's lasted so much longer and been so much more impactful than Salieri's quote unquote mediocrity.
Right. And I mean, especially with recreating something like this, and like, it's almost like a tribute to that music.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing better to look for in a person to put in charge of a project like this than a fan itself, which somebody who loves it so much that it has impacted their life so greatly.
Yeah.
And with that, I guess my last thing I was wondering is I wanted to ask you, between the two of them, whose performance do you feel really like tugged on your personal heartstrings, between Abraham and Holtz's characters?
Man, that's probably impossible to answer. It's I go back and forth every time I watch it because sometimes the inspired madman that Mozart is in this film and the way he completely ruins your expectations, which was intended because he ruined Salieri's expectations, because when he hears of Mozart he thinks of this god, like he's just he's probably just this incredible, educated, amazing, perfect person, and then he met his hero, and they became enemies. But he's so strange and funny, and he has that laugh that everybody looks up on YouTube, where he's high pitched guffaw. I won't recreate it; I'll butcher it. So look it up on YouTube. But, and then you have Abraham, who just plays this tortured, very, very honest old man describing his failures and what he wanted from God, and how he perceived God to hate him and give all the talent to this little debaucherous madman. And you see his younger self striving for perfection in music and to get out of mediocrity with his music and to become the greatest composer and to be chaste and all these things. It's just it's a tie, and both were nominated. The Academy had to choose one, so I think the reason they went with Abraham is because he had that scene where he just takes over every emotion you have when he describes that music, and he has that reaction to the music, and also for the fact that he portrayed both the older version of Salieri and the younger version seamlessly, but also creating a dichotomy between them. So often in films, when somebody plays the same character at different ages, it's kind of jarring. It's a little too obvious that they're trying to pretend to be old, but this guy was Abraham was very convincing, both as the younger and the older. So
wow,
I would probably say Abraham, only because he is the reason that you're so engrossed in the film, and because Mozart he's not supposed to be, but it's worth saying that he's not an incredibly likable protagonist in this one, even if he wasn't like this in real life. In the film, he's not very likable, so it's just it's so tough about who did the better job. I think they did equal jobs, but just because of how it was written, to have Salieri be that bridge between you and the emotions they want you to feel, I would say probably Abraham by a very, very thin margin.
Okay. Well, I think that's a very respectable way to look at it, especially, I mean, the character that makes you feel something the most is usually the right answer to that question.
Yeah, it breaks
Uh,
my heart to choose, but that's how I feel
absolutely.
about it.
Wow. All right. I'm still a little taken aback. That was a very well thought out and well put review on the movie. I mean, it's obviously very widely loved. I mean, it's even, and I've looked at it since you first mentioned it, and like it has a like almost a 8.5. It's like a 8.4 on IMDb out of 10. It's 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. Everyone seems to just adore it, and I can honestly see why now with your explanation, and now that you've gotten to kind of answer my questions about it, where there were a few things I was wondering about myself, which again, as uncultured as I may seem through these episodes, I haven't seen it for myself yet. But I mean, it's honestly it sounds like a very inspiring thing to watch, and I am a history buff myself, even if it's not exactly historically accurate. I love to see things that tie into people's real lives.
Yeah, it takes a lot of liberties, but it's in a very Greek theater or Shakespearean kind of way where you know what the truth is. You can look it up. And that's not what they're there for. It's there for what if, what if this is how this kind of music would endure. It's just a fun way to make interesting conflict so that the story works. And it's definitely not there for the accuracy. So it's good that you and most other people kind of realize, like, oh, this is not a textbook. This is just a really cool story, a cool emotional story. It's basically just trying to be an excellent piece of cinema, and that's what it achieved. So, with that said, I'm going to move us into probably what could have been the game of the year contender, if I'm not
Uh,
mistaken.
well, it was very looked forward to, even by myself. I got it. I'm pretty sure I pre-ordered it a few days before it actually released, just because I was very excited, and I usually pre-order games that I wait a long time for. It kind of reminded me of the Dishonored games, and it was very reminiscent of it. And the nostalgia factor is always a beautiful thing for me. I love, love, love playing something, or even just watching something that reminds me of good times I've had on something similar. I feel like it's always kind of a reliable way to bring back those feel good emotions, you know?
Yeah, I haven't played Deathloop, but I've absolutely loved the Dishonored games. Played the hell out of them.
Well, Deathloop is a fun game. I will give it that. It's honestly, it's not what I was expecting. But then again, I mean, with all the trailers that I even rewatched recently to really reinforce my ideas that I have here, is it's not what I was expecting, and it's not really what I was led to expect. I went into the game feeling like it was going to be an experience where I kind of had more freedom in how I wanted to go about it, which there is a lot of freedom in the game, don't get me wrong. But having that freedom and exercising it, your choices to do things your own way, also sets you back.
Hmm.
And that's kind of one thing that kind of didn't digest right with me. They had me right away because of the nostalgia factor, and add that with some just great dialogue, a lot of laughs. It's every time the characters interacted with each other, it brought a smile to my face. It's the game plays great. the gunplay, even the melee aspect of it, which stayed kind of reminiscent of the Dishonored series for Melee. The big take back I have with the game itself is the loop itself is a lot more inclusive in the gameplay than I was expecting. Making progress is a lot more tedious in figuring out how you're supposed to do it. Meaning, you start the game and you start with the high hopes and you figure out just how quickly you can die in that game. And its challenge rating, I'd say, is out of 10, I'd give it a challenge rating of maybe like a 5 or a 6. It's not too bad. As long as you're used to first person shooters and stuff like that, then you should be fine. But like, you don't have an enormous health bar or anything like that. Like, dying is a whole part of the game. The game basically capitalizes on and emphasizes the fact that you will have setbacks. Alongside the threat of, enemies in each area of the game you can explore, you also have to hunt and kill like the 7 or 8 different bosses, I'll call them, important figures around the maps at certain times of day, which the day-night cycle really is important because certain things during the daytime won't be open like they are in the night, and vice versa. So your choices in how you spend your time and what time of day where really impact what happens for you the next time the loop starts over. The game takes place with the same day happening over and over again. And if you die a certain amount of times, then the day starts over. And if you don't use a certain, currency in the game, you get, I don't know whether it is a currency necessarily. I'd say it's more of like a material you gather. That's more accurate. Then you can infuse it with a gear piece, an ability, a weapon, and then that restarts the loop with you. But doing that itself is also fairly time consuming, and you have to really know how to choose to spend your time. Which, me personally, I like doing side things. I really do. I am a completionist type of person. I'm a side quest guy.
I would like to throw this in there. This man has finished Elden Ring like 3 or 4 times, so he is a side guy on steroids. He will platinum your game, and he will platinum 3 or 4 times just to break the Guinness World Record for how many times that game has been platinumed.
I don't know if I go that far or anything, but
You're a madman. You finished Elden Ring like 4 times, and you're going on a 5th. This man's mad. Anyway, go ahead.
But no, I'm totally not waiting on an Elden Ring baseball tee to ship to me soon. I didn't just get an Elden Ring hoodie delivered this morning. Nothing like that happened, I promise.
No. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
But no, I enjoyed Deathloop for what it is. It's a very entertaining game. When you start, it has a very captivating story. The problem I run into it alongside the loop itself is once you kind of are no longer railroaded in the story and you kind of just have to choose what to do at the right time is kind of where the game loses my interest. And that's really sad because I do enjoy the game. I absolutely loved Dishonored, but it does struggle to keep my full attention. And what kind of hurts it even further is the PvP aspect of the game, where if you don't have multiplayer turned off, which, I mean, it is an aspect of the game, to get the full experience, I torture myself by keeping the multiplayer on. At any moment, whether and it could even be an AI that does this, but a player could invade your game as the other assassin in the story and hunt you, and their goal is to kill you and reset your loop. Or you could, hunt them and kill them and then continue on your merry way. But it is not an easy task. And should that person, that invader, be an experienced invader, they will know pretty much exactly where to go and what to use to take you out and reset your loop. And you'll lose all the materials you've gained if you didn't go back and grab them before you died again. And it could set you back big time when you really don't need it. It is a fairly difficult aspect of the game to get used to and accept. But of course, my nature in gaming is if it was meant to be that way, then I just kind of have to suck it up. I do struggle with the side quest thing, the whole punishment for doing what I want and exploring, and I guess I can't really call it a punishment or anything, but you do get relatively set back if you don't pay attention to exactly where you're supposed to be at that time. But granted, I mean, say if you wanted to explore a certain area at night because you'd never been there at night before, but the only option you have to further your progress in the story is to go to a different area at night, then you reset the loop and you have to wait till the next night to actually do what you were supposed to do then.
That would kind of piss me off because I played a game recently called The Forgotten City. Your progress survives loops if you successfully complete tasks. So if you complete a task successfully, or if you grab an item, or if you do something in the game, you can tell the citizens of the town you keep looping into that new information, and it'll kind of recap for them because their memories are wiped, right? So you can just have the dialogue option to recap what's going on, tell them what to do, they go do it, and then you don't have to do that task ever again. All you have to do is tell the first guy you see when you get back to town, here's a list of things I need you to do, blah, blah, blah. He's like, why should I trust you? And then you tell him something you could only know if you've been there 55,000 times. He's like, oh, egad. And then he goes and does it. So, it's, I feel like not Dishonored. Ooh, I can't wait till we do review Dishonored.
Yeah,
but,
that'll be fun.
I feel like Deathloop kind of would frustrate people because they have to redo things they've done maybe even 20 times.
Yeah, I am a fan of challenge, and the game even says it's like basically the game's motto. If at first you don't succeed, I enjoy that aspect of games where it's like, try your hardest, get knocked down, get back up again. As you probably can't tell, I enjoy that aspect of it, the challenge, the test of your ability to get through it. I enjoy it, but one thing I just can't continue to look at in a positive light is loss of progress, or rather feeling like all the work I've done has little to no reward to it. A lot of the games I play, and I've reviewed both the games that I've reviewed so far, there's a sense of accomplishment whenever you do something, really anything in either of the games I reviewed so far, Sifu, Elden Ring, they're both difficult in their own ways. And it makes you want to keep going, and I can't necessarily say that I would play through Deathloop again.
I want to play Deathloop.
Yeah, Deathloop. I cannot say that I would play through it again. I did enjoy my time playing it. For the most part, it wasn't insufferable. I did enjoy my time. My saving graces were, the characters, the plot. The voice actors did a fantastic job. There's a great aspect of comedy in the dialogue, and those kind of elements to a game are always important to have lightheartedness, and really makes all the frustration kind of a little better, as a little bit of a takeaway. But
So the
personally,
man who is doing laps around Elden Ring doesn't want to finish Deathloop. It's not that you can't. That's clear. You're very skilled. So the thing is, you just don't have the drive or the interest. They haven't generated enough impetus, I guess, for you to want to finish.
Yeah, I would personally say that about sums it up. I'd say it's just, it doesn't keep my interest long enough. Like, it was a fun ride for the time that I experienced it, but once you go through like each area and you do what you're supposed to do, and then you kind of have to go through it over and over again so many times, you don't really want to go through it anymore. Like, I've spent a good amount of hours in the game, and it just doesn't keep my interest like it should for a game of its kind that's supposed to be replayed. Like, it's a time loop game. It's supposed to be played, with the
Literally.
intention of starting over a lot. But I feel like the aspect of starting over has been made a little too involved in the gameplay, and not so much in like revolving the story.
I get that, yeah. So what would you rate this one?
I would have to give a broken-hearted rating of 1 thumbs down, and for the sake of gunplay, the DualSense controller works absolutely amazing with the game. The gunplay, the combat, the dialogue, everything like that, that's very enjoyable about the game. I'll give it 1 thumb up and 1 thumb down for
The first
my
of its
total.
kind on Gonzo reviews. So I would say in the future then,
the gun.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I had kickback. That was my bad. Go ahead.
No, you're fine, man. I was just restating, that's all.
Well, I was being thrown through a loop of my own with that feedback. It sounded like you were, not talking. Then suddenly the middle of your sentence popped into my head. And I was like, oh, darn lag. All I was going to say was that I would, in the future, then I would recommend people hit you up on Twitter at Cloud1271, because we should be doing more polls, and they should be engaging and voting, because there's so many new games that we don't know which ones to do first. I would say the next one might be Lego Star Wars, the new one that's coming out, but also we could do Dishonored, we could do Red Dead Redemption, we could do BioShock. There's all sorts of things that we could offer.
Yeah, I mean, games past, present. There's a new Witcher game coming out.
Yeah, I heard they're developing that. So
yeah, Witcher 4. God, I love the Witcher series. I hope it lives up to the hype.
Yeah, maybe we could do a retrospective on that before that one comes out. So they should hit you up and see and give their input. All of you guys should give your input to them.
Absolutely. Well, I'm open to hear anything and everything. Again, my opinions may not exactly resonate with everybody. Like personally, and this is off my usual topics of games and everything, but it kind of has something to do with it. Like personally, I feel like the Paramount Plus version of the Halo series is not doing Halo justice at all.
We're going to be
I
reviewing that soon as well.
Yeah, I'll have more to say on that later, but oh man, there's just I've got a lot of opinions piling up that we'll cover in other episodes in the future. But any opinions, that are had that you guys feel like sharing with us, our handles on Twitter. Rango over there's a lot more active than I am, admittedly, but I do have my notifications on. You can always message and tweet out whatever, and either of us or both of us will more than likely respond fairly quickly.
Yeah, I only have 9 followers on there. I'm bored, guys. Come say hi.
I mean, I think I got a whopping 3, and I'm fairly sure that 2 of those are you.
Hey man,
Yeah.
we can neither confirm nor deny that they're both me. But speaking of Twitter, what do you guys think about Elon Musk buying 9.2% stock in Twitter, becoming the largest shareholder? So guys should go on Twitter @ReviewsGonzo and tell me on Twitter what you think of Elon Musk buying up Twitter is like. And he claims in a poll that free speech is essential to a functioning democracy. Do you believe Twitter rigorously adheres to this principle? He got 2,035,924 votes. 70.4% said no, and 29.6% said yes. So it remains to be seen whether he's doing this to promote free speech on the platform, which has been stifled since 2015 very, very heavily. It's no secret that most conservatives on that app are treated with a much different set of standards than anyone else on the app, and a ton of them got banned, and a couple were justified, obviously. Trump's account being gone it makes sense after January, but most other ones were trivial, and I see people saying disgusting, horrible things on there all the time, and they don't get touched. So it's inconsistent and hypocritical, double standards, I would say, because the people who run the app are letting their bias inform their decisions on who gets to say what on the app. And he's responding to that. I understand that, but we'll see if it becomes something good, what he's doing, or if it just aggravates the problem more.
Right. Well, there's only one way to really find out how it's going to go.
Yeah, tweet and see if we get banned.
That's right. Well, we'll have to figure it out, see what goes on. I mean, no matter what, people are always going to say what they want to say, what they need to say, and we'll really find out the true nature of how things are going to be whenever we get to that point. And if people are attempting to share their thoughts and feelings and suddenly their account goes dark, then I think we'll have a good picture of
where things are going.
Yeah, how things are going to be.
Well, other news.
Yeah, we
PlayStation Plus.
Very exciting. I've been kind of expecting Sony to get its own like Game Pass type thing to compete with Xbox. Although, I mean, I like the approach of the whole thing. I believe that PlayStation probably should have done something like it sooner, just because it seems very convenient. Yeah, I myself, I do own an Xbox. I'm not just a PlayStation guy. I'm on both sides of the battlefield. We'll cover that later, but
yeah, we swing both ways. I have both as well.
We do. But I mean, looking at the price comparison for Game Pass on like PC, the Xbox, and the Game Pass Ultimate, the prices compared to the new PS Plus is wow. I mean, they still have the regular first tier of it where it's the normal PlayStation Plus we all know and love. It's online play, $60 a year, nothing really changed. But then they added 2 tiers on top of that. And so the first tier up is the PS Plus Extra, and the price goes up from $60 a year from the Essential package up to $100 a year for the extras. And I believe that has up to several hundreds of titles that will be available to you from the PS4 and the PS5. And that is something to look forward to. I mean, I really can't wait to be able to just fire up my PS Plus and download games to try out, and that'll make it so much easier for me to get games in my hands to be able to review for you guys. I mean, those who agree with me anyway. I know there are some people who probably want to wring my neck for what I just said about Deathloop. I mean, I absolutely can't wait. But the very exciting thing is the premium tier of PS Plus, and that goes up to $120 a year. But the big kicker for this, the thing that makes me, on the edge of my seat for this, is you are now able to play games going all the way back to like the PS2, PS3, and that is so exciting.
The biggest complaint is finally handled. Backwards compatibility.
Absolutely. Well, people will always find a complaint though. Like, I know that it'll be a bug for some people that they can't have, same day availability like, Xbox Game Pass does with newer games. I mean, sadly,
yeah, but
they
I would
don't
say
have that
keep an
quite
eye
yet.
out, because down the line, if this picks up, they'll probably introduce that at some point. I think the only reason Game Pass does it is because have been so successful. They're loaded. They have the luxury of doing that. They know they have enough users that'll jump on that game, kind of like Netflix in a way.
Right. And I think they're just gonna feel it out and see how it does first. And frankly, I don't blame them at all. You kind of got to test the waters with this kind of thing before going all in. But I mean, the amount of things that they're promising already is just so exciting, and I cannot wait.
Sounds awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll be covering it the moment I can get my hands on it.
Yeah, stay tuned to this channel for that. We'll update you on the PlayStation Plus and all the new games and films coming out.
Did you hear about? I'm fairly sure it's an April Fool's joke since it was on April 1st that it was posted, but I did tweet it out too. If anybody here does, well, if you're one of my 3 followers, you'll see that PlayStation, not PlayStation itself, but an account tweeted out that like, oh, PlayStation acquired Rockstar Games from Take-Two for like $20 billion, and they're saying that GTA 6 will be a PS5 exclusive.
Gasp.
Yeah, I like something like that. I can't actually believe, simply because like that's such a large thing. A very large crowd of people would be very mad, and I feel like that's kind of what tips it off. As that's definitely an April Fool's prank.
Yeah, as a cinephile in today's internet, I drop kick my devices out a window and into an ocean on April Fools, because the amount of just horror I will see.
Fake news.
Yes, it is fake news. And I need to build a wall, hide behind the wall until April 2nd, because oh my god, it's bad. Like Nicolas Cage gave birth to 5 chickens and then he taught them how to act. Just the craziest. Can't trust anything I read that day. And some of it I want. I want
It gets
to
your hopes
see,
up, man.
yeah, so they'll be like, new Pirates of the Caribbean. And just kidding. You know what? You know what, guys? You really suck. I don't like you. You're mean. I'm going away. Yeah, it's the worst day to be alive. For Doctor Who fans too, because there is such a emotional attachment to your favorite actor who portrayed him. So every year, there are the articles saying David Tennant's returning to Doctor Who to save it, and I'm like, I am happy. I click it. It's April 1st. I hate these people. And the worst thing is, the Brits are 5 hours ahead of us. So if I'm on 7 p.m. on March 31st, they already have their April Fool's shit going. So, David Tennant returns to Doctor Who. I'm like, is it what? And then I realized that they're just ahead of the curve on April 1st. And I cry for only about an hour. And then I'm good.
Oh, okay. Well, only about an hour? Or...
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's been our depressing but fun episode of Gonzo Reviews. I'd like to remind everybody to hit us on Twitter at ReviewsGonzo and at Cloud1271. We're always there, happy to talk, happy to do giveaways, and I'm really excited to keep going with this. We have a Lord of the Rings retrospective coming up. We have Lord of the Rings Amazon series preview, and then we have a Pirates of the Caribbean retrospective coming the Thursday of the week, so that would be April 21st. And we have all these games I mentioned earlier that we need to cover at some point. We have Lego Star Wars, we have Red Dead, we have BioShock, we have all sorts of games that we
I'd
need
also
to
like to
jump
talk
into.
about Ghost of Tsushima at some point.
Yeah, and then Dishonored. It's just so many great things that we can cover. So if you guys want to choose the order we do those in, definitely hit us up on Twitter. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you're enjoying about the podcast. And we look forward to hearing from all of you. And if you guys enjoyed it, make sure to save us to your podcast list, download us, give us a 5-star rating if you liked it. And every Thursday morning, a new episode will be posted. So
that's what we're aiming for anyway.
Yeah. So stay tuned and keep watching movies and playing games, I guess.
Well, we hope you enjoyed.